Did you say something before and you were asked to explain exactly what you meant? Maybe your sentence was unclear or that it was ambiguous. It could have more than one interpretation. Ambiguity is one main language pitfall, and this discussion will address how we can avoid ambiguity. So, what is it, ambiguity? Ambiguity means not clear or having more than one interpretation. So, if your structure, your sentence is unclear or that it has more than one interpretation, it is ambiguous. But we need to note that ambiguity can be intended. One could choose intentionally to use ambiguity, maybe for the sake of humor or also to cause confusion. Whatever the case, ambiguity is more of a meaning problem than a grammatical problem. What it means is that a grammatically correct sentence could be ambiguous. So ambiguity has to do more with meaning than anything else, but it can be intended. And of course, precision is key in language use. We want to say exactly what we mean. It's just like the bull's eye. You want to hit the yellow spot right in the eye, not the red or the green or the blue or the white, whatever the case is. You want to hit exactly on the spot. So our choice of words as well as their arrangement is very important. So words, how we arrange them, very important in conveying exactly what we want to convey. So we mean precision. We want to be direct, very clear as to what we want to say to avoid ambiguity. Then we have types of ambiguity. We have phonological ambiguity that deals with sound alikes. We have the one we call semantic or lexical. That has to do with words. And then we have the one we call structural or syntactic ambiguity, which has to do with group of words. Phonological ambiguity is caused by homophones, that is, words having the same pronunciation but different spellings. One beautiful thing about semantic ambiguity is that these words in isolation can cause ambiguity because it's difficult to tell exactly what one means. But once they are put in context, they are disambiguated. The ambiguity is gone. So, for example, the word flower, flower, flower. So, flower could be a plant, could refer to a part of a plant, or it could refer to food. What we use in baking bread, for example, is flour. So, the example, use wheat flour to bake the bread. Then we know that this is what we are saying. The context disambiguates it. The other example, I and I. I feel pains in my right eye. The first I is the pronoun I, and then the other one is the part of the human body with which we see. Then right and right, write the answer in the right corner. The first one is a verb, and then the other one is an adjective in context. So the context just disambiguates phonological ambiguous words, I should say. So nose and nose, here and here, wait and wait, apart and apart, peace and peace. In isolation, we could wonder, what does he mean? What is she saying? But once we put these words in context, the ambiguity is gone. So phonological ambiguity is not so much of a problem, really. Then we have semantic ambiguity, also caused by homonyms, words that have the same spelling and the same pronunciation. In isolation, we could wonder what the individual means. But just like in the case of phonological ambiguity, once these words are in context, the ambiguity is gone. So tie, for example, always wear a shirt and tie. Over there, the tie is meaningful. It's part of a dressing. It's part of grooming, you can tell. Then tie the ropes into one. Different, clear. Bank. He has money in his bank account. There is so much sand at the riverbank. The sentences just make this word, bank, clear. Context is powerful in the case of semantic ambiguity. Then watch. He asked me to watch the time on his watch. The first one is a verb. The other one is a noun, but it's clear. Letter. English has 26 letters. I wrote him a letter. So letter or letters in context, very clear. isn't it? Then bat. A bat looks very much like a mouse. In this case, we're referring to the animal bat. The context made it clear. Then I can't find my table tennis bat. Also very clear. Very clear. Context is just powerful when it comes to words that are in isolation. And the final type of ambiguity is structural ambiguity. And this can result from the arrangement of words, and it is probably the commonest source of ambiguity. There are many things that are responsible for structural ambiguity. We're going to discuss just a few of them in this video. One of them is unclear modifications. If modifiers are not modifying exactly what they are supposed to modify, and we are wondering what they are modifying, that could be a source of ambiguity. So let's look at these examples. Example 1 says, the secretary doesn't want to enter dirty workers' dormitories. The secretary doesn't want to enter dirty workers' dormitories. The question is it the workers that are dirty or their dormitories? That's unclear. If it is more likely that the speaker or the writer is referring to the dormitories being dirty, not the workers. If that is the case, the sentence should read something like, the secretary doesn't want to enter workers' dirty dormitories. Workers' dirty dormitories. So that the dormitories are for the workers, but it's the dormitories that are dirty, not the workers. Then another example is, the executives plan not to attend boring musicians' live performances. So the question is it the musicians that are boring or their live performances? More likely, this is referring to their live performances. The sentence could reread like, the executives plan not to attend boring live performances of musicians. Then it is clear that it is the live performances that are boring, not the musicians. Another way that another source of ambiguity structurally is ambiguous reference. You don't know what exactly something refers to in a structure, basically. Let's see. Take the screens of the second story windows and paint them. Now the pronoun them can refer to windows, can refer to screens. The question is, what is them referring to? If you want it to refer to the screens, you repeat it. So take the screens of the second story windows and paint the screens. Or if you wanted to go for the windows, take the screens of the second story windows and paint the windows. Number 2, when I tried to glue the handle onto the cap, it broke. The pronoun it can refer to handle, it can refer to cap. How do you clarify that? If you wanted to refer to handle, repeat handle. When I tried to glue the handle onto the cap, the handle broke. Or if you mean the cap broke. Ambiguity clear. When the puppy tripped over the broom, I picked it up. It can refer to puppy, it can refer to broom. If it is a broom you mean, you can say, when the puppy tripped over the broom, I picked the broom up. If it's the puppy, when the puppy tripped over the broom, I picked the puppy up. Once it can refer to either puppy or broom, that is an ambiguous reference, and you may wonder what the speaker or the writer means. Then Fred told Peter that he is next on the program. He can refer to Fred, it can refer to Peter. What do? You can say, for example, Fred told Peter that he, Fred, is next on the program. Or Fred told Peter that Peter is next on the program. You can repeat any one that you want. It will make it clearer than going for a pronoun and then having an ambiguous reference to deal with. So it's not easy. Ambiguity, all of us can fall victim to it. And sometimes it's very confusing. You wonder, what is this really? But if you think clearly, you can see that they can be solved. Because precision and clarity These are key to speech and writing. Careless word order is one source of ambiguity structurally. So let's take some examples. He gave the parrot to the man with a long beak. With a long beak is a group of modifiers, but they are wrongly placed. Careless word order. This is what we call misrelated construction. You can watch my videos on misrelated constructions and dangling modifiers as being one source of ambiguity. Misrelated constructions and dangling modifiers being a source of ambiguity. So back to the example, he gave the parrot to the man with a long beak. The with a long beak should be placed close to parrot, not the man. So it should be, he gave the parrot with a long beak to the man. Example 2, another careless word order. The car was awarded to the man with a modern steering wheel. Of course, a human being wouldn't have a steering wheel. So the car with a modern steering wheel was awarded to the man, would be more appropriate and clearer, straight to the point. A motorbike is sold by a young man with large tires. Careless word order. The modifications with large tires should be placed close to motorbike, not young man. So a motorbike with large tires is sold by a young man. So careless order can also cause ambiguity structurally. Then we have ambiguous word or phrase in a sentence. If we have an ambiguous word or an ambiguous phrase in a sentence, that can cause ambiguity. For example, the punishment of the leaders angered the followers. The question is, were the leaders the one doing the punishing of other people, or the leaders themselves were punished? That's a question to answer. If it is the leaders that were punished, the sentence can be restructured to make it clearer. So it could be many people were angered, or the followers were angered because their leaders were punished. The followers were angered because their leaders were punished. Now, in restructuring sentences to make them not ambiguous, there are many ways. So just look at the sentence and see how could you restructure them to remove the ambiguity. Once the resulting sentence is grammatically correct and unambiguous, you have done a good job. So the followers were angered because their leaders were punished. Could be one of the ways to restructure this ambiguous sentence. There are many ways of killing this type of cat. Example 2, the arrest of the police surprised everyone. It could be that the police themselves were doing the arrest, or the police were arrested. Many people were surprised because the police were arrested. Everyone was surprised because the police were arrested. Or people were surprised because the police arrested criminals. Whatever the case is, once you remove the ambiguity and the intended meaning is there, case closed. Then the chicken is ready to eat. It could be the meat or the live bird. So you can see the bird is ready to eat. Is its food ready? Or the chicken is served. We are ready to eat. However you do it, once the ambiguity is removed and what remains is grammatically correct and is meaningful, a good job is done. So ambiguous word or phrase is also responsible for ambiguity in a sentence or in a structure. The final example, the woman murderer was caught. Was it a murderer who murdered a woman, or a murderer who herself as a woman? That's the question. So the woman who murdered someone was caught, and it means that the murderer himself is a woman, or the murderer who murdered a woman was caught. Whatever the case is, you want to just have one meaning. Once that is done, good job. Then we have careless punctuation also being responsible for structural ambiguity. Punctuation is very good, very key in language use. Once it is done carelessly, that can result to structural ambiguity. Let's take this example. I tell you today you will have your prize. I tell you today you will have your prize. Now the question is, today? Is the telling done today? Or are you going to have your prize today? That question bothers your mind. Let us see how, if this were appropriately punctuated, that confusion would be cleared by looking at the sentence. I tell you today, you will have your prize. It means that the telling is done today. The prize may be given to you today or any other day. The meaning is clear. So punctuation done appropriately here. Or it could be this way. I tell you, today you will have your prize. I tell you, today you will have your prize. So it means that the telling is done, but the giving of the prize, you are sure that it is going to be no other day than today. It is going to be today. So punctuation, we need to be very careful the way we use the punctuation marks, because we could say something that we do not want to say. So we have come to see very important things about ambiguity, how we can avoid it. Let us keep practicing the ways we can avoid ambiguity, mind our choice of words as well as how we arrange them, and we can be successful in avoiding ambiguity. Have a wonderful time.